In this video, I discuss the stock market long-term forecast, sentiment analysis, Elliott-Wave cycles, and a strategy that will boost returns in sideways and declining markets. In this presentation, I refer to the US economy and the US stock market, which is the S&P 500. We will look at some examples based on the S&P 500, but this analysis and this strategy can be applied to other stock indices like the FTSE 100 index or other like European stock markets. But basically, here we are looking at causes of booms, and we can see that since the last financial crisis in 2009, US interest rate went down to nearly zero. The central bank, the Fed, increased the money supply, doing quantitative easing. Last year, the US government lowered income and corporation tax. And we all know that asset prices have risen strongly since 2009, and many asset classes, including real estate, have been going up. So it looks like the boom phase is over. There is a good chance that we are entering or we are near the start of a recession or something more serious, like a depression. The point of that chart, you see, we are looking at real GDP annual change. The point of that chart is to show that nothing moves in a straight line. You can see the last depression here in the 30s, early 30s. GDP recovered and it's going up, but then it's going down, then it's going up again, and then down and up again. Nothing moves in a straight line. It's like a cycle. The economy follows a cycle. But the point here is that depression is not something we will see very often. It's more likely that we are going to see it every maybe 100 years, something like that, or maybe less. Where recessions and slowdowns are more common, we see them more often. Okay, so the point is that, and we will see that this cycle in the economy follows the stock market, basically, and the stock market follows an Elliott-Wave cycle. Okay, the first point I wanted to make here is that the longer the boom period lasts, the greater the risk of a depression. Okay, that's because after a long period of time, a very long period of time, investor sentiment, the social mood, whatever you call it, people will be in such a positive mood, such extreme optimism that that is the reason why the risk of a depression occurs, because of the increase in bullish sentiment over a long period of time. Okay, so basically, when that period of bullish sentiment reach an extreme, like an extreme in optimism, this is when the stock market will go down and the economy will slow or contract. And if we look at this chart, we can see that there have been a number of recessions since the last depression. For example, in 1949 there was a recession, but the stock market went down the stock market peaked in 1946 and it went down, and then it went sideways in 1947, 1948, and then in 1949 we had a recession. In the 70s, the stock market peaked in 1972 and went down until 1974. The recession started in 1973. Then in the 90s, again, we had a crash, a stock market crash in 1987, and that caused a recession in the early 90s. In 2000, the stock market peaked in 1999 when the dot-com bubble burst, and then it went down until 2002. The recession started in 2001. In 2007, the stock market peaked. It went down until 2009. The recession started in 2008. As you can see, each time the stock market goes down, there is a kind of problem in the economy. And the stock market is leading the economy. The stock market turns down before the economy starts to turn down. So, by looking at the stock market and understanding how the stock market moves, we can anticipate the change in the economy. These periods of expansions and contractions, they follow an Elliott wave cycle, and I will discuss Elliott wave in a moment. But the important point that I wanted to make is that when sentiment is too optimistic, in general, this is when the problem starts. So Elliott wave analysis. We call it Elliott wave analysis because it was a guy called, his name was Ralph Nelson Elliott. He was an accountant in the 1930s in America, and he discovered this pattern, and he called it the wave principle. Okay, what he noticed that the stock market goes up in 5 waves and corrects in 3 waves. So here we've got the basic pattern. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it goes down in 3, A, B, and C. So that is a cycle in 8 waves. And he noticed that pattern and started to do some research. And basically that basic pattern in 5 waves repeats itself. You know, it's the same pattern, but happening in different time frames. For example, if you look at that big wave here, from the beginning to the end of wave 5, if that is like, like say 40 years period, maybe, imagine this is a 40-year period, and it's moving up in 5 waves. If you go to a smaller wave, like that one, wave 1, imagine that one lasted 10 years. You will also see this 5-wave pattern inside that first wave. So it's repeating itself, but in different time frames. Okay. If I look at that 5th wave here, if I can zoom in and go to a smaller time period, like maybe, imagine that lasted maybe like 2 years. Again, you would see 5 waves inside it. So that's what is Elliott wave. It's a recurring pattern, and it's happening in 5 waves up, 3 waves down. It's a reflection of mass psychology. This is what it is. And as I was talking earlier about extreme optimism, there is also extreme pessimism. If we are looking at an Elliott wave over a very long period of time, maybe 10 years or more, you will see that in general it will start with extreme pessimism and end with extreme optimism. And a good example is, if we imagine if that chart here, starting here, imagine if that was 1932, for example. Yeah? At that time, sentiment was extremely pessimistic, but it was the start of a very long advance in the stock market. And if we compare that with where we are today, I would say we are really optimistic, and it's probably the top. So this is what we get. We got the stock market moves from one extreme to the other, and in between we have some corrections. It's a bit like the economy. It's moving from one extreme to the other and some recession along the way. Same thing here. We've got corrections, and if we go to a smaller time frame, we get some little pullback, like on a daily or hourly chart. We can even trade intraday with this technique because it's always the same pattern. It can happen on an hourly chart, on a daily chart, weekly chart, monthly chart. So the stock market follows a cycle, but of course it's not always straightforward. You know, sometimes it's more complex to analyze because here I'm giving you the basic pattern, which is 5 waves up. Sometimes it's longer because there will be an extension in one of the waves, so that will make the pattern in more than 5 waves. But of course, at the moment, this is not a course on Elliott wave, so I will just keep to the basic pattern, which is the 5 wave pattern. Okay. Now, what is important is that if we can analyze the stock market using this technique, we can predict what will happen in the economy. Because as I was saying earlier, you know, the stock market leads the economy. And that is the job of an Elliott wave analyst, is to analyze the stock market, to predict what will happen with regard to stock prices, with regard to the economy, and also it can extend to other areas. But here we are focusing on the S&P 500 index. Here is an example of the Dow Jones over the long term. This chart was provided by Elliott Wave International because I don't have enough data to go back that long time ago. You can see that this chart starts really like in the 18th century starts. So you can see it's the beginning of the stock market. And of course, there was no Dow Jones in those days. So you can see that, you know, part of the chart is a Dow Jones starting in 1789, but before that it was the LSE. Okay, so the reason why we've got two different markets is just to be able to put the label on the chart. And you can see that the first wave is here, around 1720. The second wave is about, I would say, 1785. And the third wave is where we are now. So you can imagine how far we've gone. Because if we are looking at a chart starting about, it's more than 200 years advanced. You know, it started in about, I would say, 1785, and that is more than 200 years. So you can imagine that the next correction will be proportionate, you know, because this is what happened in Elliott wave analysis. You know, if you are on a daily chart and you will look at a rally that lasted 10 days, the correction will last 1 or 2 days. But if the rally has lasted 200 years, you can imagine the correction will last a long time, many years. And that's the reason why we should be worried, because the next correction is not going to be small. It's going to be large in time, in magnitude. Now, if we look at this Elliott wave pattern, on this long-term chart, already we know that we are in the third wave. In a circle, I put it in a circle because there are other third waves, like that one here. This is a third wave too. So my label is wave 2, wave 3 in a circle, and the next one is wave 4 in a circle, that one. Okay, now if we look at the inside each wave, as I was saying earlier, there are 5 waves as well. So for example, if we look at that wave 3 in bracket here, that wave 3 in bracket started here. We've got wave 2 in bracket. Inside it, we've got 5 waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If we look at the inside that 5th wave, we've got 5 waves too. 1 here, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we got a correction. This is 4 in bracket. Now we've got the 5th wave in bracket until today. Now inside it, again, we've got 5 waves. We've got 1, 2, 3 in the late 60s, 4 early 70s, and 5. And if we look inside that 5th wave, again we have 5 waves. They are not labeled on that chart because we can't see the pattern very well, but I can tell you where they are. In that 5th wave here, we've got 1 here, which is the early 80s, 2, 3, which is the 2000 top, 4, which is a 2009 bottom, and 5 now. So we can see that if we look at all the subdivisions, they are in place. They are in place for a massive decline in the stock market. Because, as I was saying, after that 200-year advance, there will be a correction of similar proportion in time and magnitude. The only question is that 4th wave in a circle. What shape will that 4th wave take? Because 4th wave can be sharp or sideways. What do I mean by sharp? Sharp is when it's like a sharp decline, basically, like this one here. This is a 4th wave also in bracket. That was a crash of 29. Because it's a crash, it's in one wave. That is not sideways, it's sharp. That's what I mean. So this is a 4th wave, sharp, and this one in the 70s is a 4th wave too, but sideways. You see, it's going sideways, not sharp. So that's what I'm saying. There are 2 ways for a 4th wave, either sharp or sideways. It's important to make the difference because depending on whether it's sharp or sideways, you know, the period of time it will take for that wave to unfold will be based on whether it's sharp or sideways. Because if it's sharp, it will happen quickly. Okay, if it's sharp, maybe in 15 to 20 years, that 4th wave will be complete. But if it's sideways, you can see sideways, it will take longer. It will take maybe 50 or 60 years to complete. And during that time, stock will be still below the all-time high. So you can imagine we could be in a situation where the stock market is going sideways for 60 years and not many people will see a new high in their lifetime. That's a possibility. If that 4th wave here goes sideways in A, B, C, D, and E. Of course, along the way, there will be many opportunities to go long, you can see, because it will start with wave. Imagine if wave 4 is sideways, it will start with wave A down. So there will be a massive rally here for wave B. Then it will go down again. Then there will be a massive rally again for wave D. So there will be opportunities to go long, but of course, over a long period of time, it's sideways, so there is no net gain. But the more importantly is that even if it's not sharp and it's sideways, like here, wave A will be a massive decline because wave A will have to go down a significant amount, which is in proportion with the previous advance, and that could be a decline similar to a crash, because that wave A inside the 4th wave could go back to the level seen in the 80s or maybe 90s, depending on how sharp it will be. And after that wave A, there will be a big rally back to near the top. And again, a decline, a rally, a decline, and then a new bull market will start in 50, 60 years' time. Now, the alternative is if wave 4 is sharp, like in 1929. It means that from where we are now, there will be a crash, basically. The market will just fall. Instead of wave A, that will be wave 4, and that will be the end, and the market will rally again. So that will be shorter, and that's why I say 15, 20 years to complete. But in each scenario, there is a massive decline coming. We know that that wave in progress started with extreme pessimism in 1932, and it will end with extreme optimism. And we are currently in a period of extreme optimism. Why? Simply because if you can look around and what's happening in the stock market, in the economy, the way people behave, you can simply, see that they are very, very much optimistic. You can always refer to a period where the stock market was at a new low, like in 29, and see if they were behaving in the same manner, and probably not. For example, at the moment, there is what we call FOMO, fear of missing out. The market rally because people are worried they are going to miss the rally. Well, if you go back to 1929, or even more recently, in 2009, there was no FOMO in the market. Nobody, was concerned by FOMO, the fear of missing out, because they were worried the market would go down. That's why there was no FOMO. Today, we see FOMO everywhere. People are worried to miss, and this is a condition seen when you've got extreme optimism. Then you've got the stock rallying on deteriorating economic activity. Again, this is a sign of extreme optimism, because we've seen in recent months that the economy is deteriorating, yet, the stock market is going to new high. Earnings have been downgraded, stock market is going to new high. This is another case of extreme optimism. People ignore the bad news, because they believe in the good news. Another sign is when President Trump talks about the trade deal with China. He's making some insignificant statement about the trade deal, like trade talks are going very well, and the market rallies. People buy. The fact that he's saying that the trade talks are going well is enough for people to buy. Again, this is like extreme optimism, because there is no reason to believe that there is a deal. Maybe there is no deal. We don't know yet. But President Trump has been talking about a trade deal and how it's going well for the last 4 months. And every time he says it, the market rallies. You've got also to take into account that when people are in a state of positive mind, positive sentiment, they expect good news. They don't expect bad news. If there is an announcement, if there is some kind of important event happening, they will immediately assume that it's good news, because they are in that state of extreme optimism. An example is like a FOMC meeting, for example. Have you noticed that the market tend to rally before that FOMC statement? And that is because, again, it's a characteristic of their positive mood, because they expect good news. You see, when they are in a state of extreme optimism, they only see good news. So when there is a FOMC statement, they will buy ahead of that statement. When there is a non-farm payroll, they will buy ahead of that report, because also they think it's good. Basically, if the Fed chairman is about to speak, same thing, they will buy ahead, because they think he will say good news again. Then we've got the percentage of bullish advisors, and this is there are various surveys where people track the percentage bullish advisors. And when the percentage is very high, like 90–95%, it means it often coincides with a period of extreme optimism. And if you look at the data now, you will see that bullish advisors are probably at 95%, which is very high. Again, this is associated with extreme optimism. So there are so many examples, and I could cite more, where we are in a period of extreme optimism. And this is why we need to be cautious, because not only we are in that period of extreme optimism, but we've got a 5-wave advance since 1932, and the final wave since 1974 is also in 5-wave, and inside that 5th wave, there are always 5 waves. So we are really near the top, okay? But I think that top is not going to be, it's going to take time to complete. I think it's not something that will happen like in the next few months, because we've seen what happened in December last year. I thought really the market had turned down, but look at this rally we've got, in the space of like 4 months, it's gone back to the top. So it means that the bulls are not finished. They are not finished, but that's normal. We don't expect them to be finished immediately. The problem with these long advance lasting like 80 years or even 10 years is that it is difficult to time, because it's such a long time. So there is, you could be wasting your time trying to time the end of that 10-year advance or 20 years advance, And that's why I go to a shorter term period, because it's easier, So I use my 2 indicators, short-term indicators, to be more accurate. Like I've got a sentiment indicator called BTI, and I've got a trend reversal indicator. I've got those 2 indicators, and because I'm more concerned with the shorter term trend, I can use my sentiment indicator for direction, and I can use the trend reversal indicator for a change of trend. So for example, when the BTI is rising, which is a sentiment indicator, when it's rising, it means sentiment is bullish and the stock market is more likely to go up. When that sentiment indicator turns bearish, it means the stock market is more likely to go down. So it's like giving me direction. And when we are in a period where sentiment has been bullish for a while and is getting to like silly level of extreme bullish sentiment, that trend reversal indicator will flash a sell signal. It will tell us that basically sentiment has reached extreme bullishness, extremely bullish. So that's why we should be ready. It's a bit like extreme optimism. It's a shorter term, not like long term. So I don't call it extreme optimism, but I call it more like it's an extreme in bullish sentiment, basically. But it's got a similar, consequences, because it means the stock market will turn down. Okay, so I've got direction with the BTI. Okay, and when I get to like a resistance area where the trend will turn down, the trend reversal indicator will give me a signal. But the bottom line is that at the moment we are in the early stages of a topping process in the stock market. And that is characterized by extreme optimism in the 5th wave of the advance. And we need to be prepared for that reversal. It could take a long time, and the market will probably be difficult to predict with very little upside from here. But this is where I have an advantage. It will be difficult to predict for many people, but for me, I think it's going to be easy because I've got the tools for this kind of market. Now, if we look at sentiment in the stock market, in this example, we've got a chart of the S&P 500 since last year around October 2018 and going to we are now in April 2019. And I wanted to show you how my sentiment indicators work. I've put on the chart some red arrows, like Dan here. This is when my sentiment indicator turned bearish, okay, and also some arrows going up when my sentiment indicator turned bullish. As you can see, it's been very accurate at predicting the short-term trend in the stock market. That's why it's called a directional indicator, because it gives a direction. For example, it turned bearish at the end of November, and the market went down. Then it turned bullish on the 12th of December, but that was like it was a false signal really, because it lasted only 5 days. It stayed bullish for 5 days, and it turned bearish on the 17th of December, and again the market declined. Then we had the bounce in January. The sentiment turned bullish on the 8th of January, and again, if I go to in March, we had a false signal. But that's normal. You know, sometimes we get those false signals because the market can change, the sentiment can change temporarily for a few days and then change again. So on the 6th of March, sentiment is bearish. Again, for like 9 days, it stays bearish and then turn bullish again on the 15th of March. And then you've got those two yellow rectangles here. And those yellow rectangles are places where the trend reversal indicator is giving a signal. For example, there are areas where bearish sentiment will reach an extreme at the low. Okay, so when the stock market went down in December, sentiment was bearish, becoming bearish, more bearish until it gets to an extreme of bearish sentiment. And that means that when we reach that extreme in bearish sentiment, there is a good chance that the stock market will rally again. And that's what it did. Except that this time it didn't reach that area. The market stopped just above that area. It was nearly extremely bearish, you know, but didn't get there. But it doesn't matter. It just shows you that it was still an indication that the market would rally. Where now, in April 2019, the sentiment indicator, you know, is still bullish, so bullish sentiment, but we've reached extreme bullish sentiment in April. I can't remember the date. I think it was around the 20th of April, something like that. We got to extreme bullish, and that means the trend reversal indicator is telling us the market will turn down. Okay, so as you can see, this is how it works. So the sentiment indicator is giving the direction of the market. And when we get to those areas, yellow rectangle, this is where I protect the portfolio or I increase the exposure. For example, at the bottom, I would go long because it's a bottom. Where when we are at the top, we have to go short because the market is expected to pull back. The only difference between the two is that because we are in a bull market, when the market is oversold and we've reached extreme bearish sentiment, the rally will last many months. Where when we are at the top and sentiment is extremely bullish, the decline will only last weeks instead of months. You know, it's because it's a bull market at the moment, and that's why. So what I expect from that chart is that the S&P 500 will pull back, but it's not going to last months, or maybe 1 month. It could be like 5 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, something like that, or maybe less. I don't know. It's not very clear how long it will last. The only way we know how long it will last is as the pattern unfolds, the Elliott wave patterns, because on that chart I haven't put the pattern, you see. I haven't put the label. Maybe this is the bottom of a 4th wave, and then we're in the 5th wave, you see. Because not only I use sentiment for guidance, but I also use the Elliott wave pattern, like, you know, knowing where we are in the wave. Because if that is a 4th wave, then we are near the end of the 5th wave. And that makes sense, because after a 5th wave, in general, you have a correction in 3 waves. So that's why that correction in 3 waves could be the multi-week decline we expect. And of course, when I was talking earlier about how long it will take, I said multi-weeks. It's a bit vague, because it could be 3, 4, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. And here comes the pattern. because that pattern will be in 3 waves A, B, and C, if wave A, the first decline, takes 4 weeks, then I can tell you with more precision that that decline will be longer, because if the first wave was taken, like, say, 5 weeks or 4 weeks, say 4 weeks, then there will be a bounce, maybe lasting a week or two, and then another decline lasting 4 weeks. So that could take us to 2 months' time. So that's why it's very difficult now, at this stage, to say how long it will take for that decline. We need to see how the pattern unfolds. But this is basically how it works. And if we go back to the table below the chart, we can see how it works, because we are in November 18. Okay, so sentiment is bearish, so it's a sell. That extreme in sentiment has not been reached yet, so it's no. And maybe the net exposure of a portfolio would be 50% short. I'm just giving an example here. You know, as the stock market declines into December and the decline extends, we reduce that exposure because we are getting near a bottom. Because I know that at that stage that we are near extreme bearish sentiment, and so near a bottom. So instead of 50%, that will drop maybe to 20% or maybe to 0%, depending on, you know, how risk averse you are, you know, how cautious you are. So that depends on, you know, people have different risk preference. So, but here I assume that it's 20% short. Okay. Then we've got another signal in December. Okay, because what's happened in December, assuming that that went into the box, you know, and it was oversold, then it would be a buy because we've reached extreme bearish sentiment. So at that stage, it's a buy because sentiment is still bearish. You can see it's bearish during that period. However, the trend reversal indicator is saying buy. So that's why it's buy. So in that situation, the trend reversal indicator is more important than the sentiment, because it's telling us that the market will rally, but it doesn't tell us when, you know, because when extreme bearish sentiment has been reached, it can last another week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before we reach the bottom. You see, it doesn't tell us when it's going to bottom. So that's why we buy, but we are not 100% long. You know, we are 80% long because we are waiting for sentiment to turn bullish, to load more, you know, long, you see. And this is what happened in January. In January, it goes to 100% long because sentiment here has turned bullish. So now it's confirmation that we are in that new uptrend, okay? So that's why in December, we are 80%, and in January, it's going to 100% long. February is the same thing, 100% long, because nothing has changed. Sentiment is bullish. In March, it goes to 0%. Again, this is a precaution because sentiment has turned bearish, but we are not yet at the top because the trend reversal indicator is not overbought. So because sentiment has turned bearish, as a precaution, we can maybe be neutral at 0%. Then you get a buy signal again. Sentiment turned bullish in March. So this is why you go back to 100% long. And then in April, sentiment is bullish, but it's reached extreme bullish sentiment, so it's a sell signal. So that's why it's 0%. This time, again, it depends on the person. You know, some people may be more aggressive, and at that stage it would be short, maybe 20% short. But I think it's better to be neutral because it's a bull market, sentiment is bullish. You know, you don't want to be too aggressive. You know, sometimes I am a bit aggressive, but I guess you don't want to fight the market trend, so it's better to just reduce to a neutral position. So that would be my net exposure, portfolio exposure. A potential scenario for the S&P 500 going forward, this is what I see. I see a market, a market that is in a topping process for the reasons that I've discussed earlier, and upside is limited. You know, I don't know where the rally will end. It's always difficult to call the top of like a very long advance, but I anticipate a kind of sideways move that could last 10 to 15 months or more, because the market is tired to go up, is at the end of its cycle. We are in the last subdivision of the cycle. Okay. So what's going to happen? There are I would say 2 or 3 scenarios here. The first scenario is that one that I'm showing. Sometimes the market will go up within 2 converging trend lines. We call it a rising wedge. Okay, it's like having like 2 converging trend lines. And that could be the scenario in the S&P, where that was the bottom in December 2018. We make new high above 29.41, set in September 2018. The market doesn't move much higher, but then a big pullback. That pullback would come in the next few weeks, and is predicted by the trend reversal indicator that has reached overbought. So that would be a move taking us to maybe mid-May, okay, a decline until mid-May, and then another rally to new high going into the summer. But that rally will end probably near 3,000, something like that, 3,010, I don't know. And then we get another pullback, a smaller one, then another rally to the area, maybe 3050, 3100, something like that. But what I'm saying here is that after that, the market is going down again. Try to rally it again, decline, tries to rally again, and declines again. Overall, we have a sideways pattern lasting a long period of time, okay? And that, I think, is the best scenario for the S&P 500. The other scenario is a crash, because we know that, there are times where the market will have enough and will crash, and it's possible that happen, earlier than the 15 months period. It could happen from that area and get a big crash immediately, because it's been going up for so long on extreme optimism. That's why. You could have like an accident, waiting to happen. Could have some kind of like a piece of news that is so bearish that would send the market crashing immediately. I don't know what that piece of news would be, but it's possible. Like a liquidity problem at a large bank, something like that is possible. Because when the market is in that state, it's very fragile. Bad news could have devastating consequences. But the piece of news must be really bad. Not like something like a non-farm payroll wouldn't be enough. It has to be something significant. Anyway, that's the first scenario. The other scenario, it could be like what happened to the Dow Jones in the late 60s. On the right, I've got the chart of the Dow Jones. As you can see, in 66 we had the top and the market started to go down, which is wave A. I label it wave A. Market rallied to new high, which is wave B. Then it made a new low, wave C. That was followed by another rally to new high, wave D. And then a big drop, which is wave E, making a new low. As you can see on the left, the S&P 500 today is in a similar pattern. We had wave A, wave B to new high, wave C, which was a December low, and we are now in wave D, and making new high. So if history is any guide, we could be in that similar situation as the Dow was in the 70s. We could have this big decline coming, which is the next move. That would take us to maybe 2350, 2340, something like that, in the next few months. So that is the second scenario. The only difference between what happened in the 70s and what's happening today is that in the 70s, that low here in 74, that was a fourth wave. You will recall, I showed you on the long-term chart that that low in 74 was wave 4 of a 5-wave rally starting in 1932. Okay? So that wave 4 in 74 is what we call an expanding triangle. Because if you look at that, it's A, B makes a new high. So if you link the top of wave B and wave D, it's a line, a resistance line that is going up. And if you link A, B, and C, it's a support line that is going down. So it's expanding. This is why we call it an expanding triangle. So that is a pattern inside that fourth wave. It's an expanding triangle. Okay, and that was the fourth wave of the fifth wave of the advance. But if we look at where we are today, we are at the top of that fifth wave. Okay, so we are at the end now of the fifth wave. So if the S&P goes down to that area to complete a triangle into a fourth wave, that will be a fourth wave, but what I call a fourth wave of minor degree. This is a fourth wave of larger degree, and this is a fourth wave of minor degree. Minor degree because it's inside the fifth wave. Okay, the fifth wave started in 74, is ending now, and that is a subwave, which is a fourth wave inside the fifth wave. So it means that the fifth wave won't go far anyway. So in any case, any scenario you can think of, upside is limited, because if the S&P is doing an expanding triangle and is going to rally, the top will come probably, I would say, at 3100, maybe a bit higher, 3120, 3130, something like that. It's not going to go much higher. Okay. So in any case, why see limited upside in the stock market? And the more likely scenario is for a sideways pattern over a long period of time, lasting maybe 15 months. That there won't be any new gains in the S&P 500.